Welcome back to your number one source for all things EIDL, because we go over information that literally isn't covered anywhere else. And now that the new EIDL loan program has come out where you can receive 3 to 4 times more money than you received before, there is a lot to cover that needs to be covered because this new application process is kind of strange. It's very strange, and there's some intricacies that we need to talk about. Also, I have some additional questions and answers directly to the SBA that need to be covered regarding the loan program as well. And they actually sent me a separate message that said, hey, if you are posting another video about this program, can you also address these things that are common issues? So we're going to cover that as well. So first off, if you received an EIDL loan, if you're one of the 3.7 million businesses who received an EIDL loan, you should have received or you will be receiving a letter just like this. We cut over here. Let me zoom in real quick. You'll be receiving this letter. Now, it's been sent to 1 million businesses so far, and there are 2.7 million businesses to go. So chances are you probably received this or you're going to receive it within the next few days. It basically just says that the loan has increased from 6 months of economic injury to 24 months, which is, your calculation. So you can receive up to 4 times more through the loan program now, to a total of potentially $500,000, and that will expand to $2 million at some point in the near future. They also say that the first payment has been deferred. If you received a EIDL loan in 2020, the deferment is 24 months. If you received it in 2021, the first payment is due 18 months after the origination date of the loan. In order to apply, it's kind of a weird process. It's not exactly what you would expect. So let's cover this. Basically, you need to send an email to this email address, COVID EIDL increase request at sba.gov. You need to send that email in email. There's not like a form to fill out. Not sure exactly why they're doing it this way, but this is the process. Then in the subject line, you need to have this exact EIDL increase request for, and then your loan number in brackets. Now, if you haven't yet received this email, you can kind of cheat the system and just email this already with the following information, and you'll be placed in line because it's kind of a first come, first serve kind of thing. So you can thank me here by telling you how to do this by subscribing and liking this video, because you can kind of skip the line if you haven't received this email yet. Now, in the body, it says, be sure to include the following identifying information for your current loan, including the loan application number, the loan number, business name, business address, business owner name, and phone number. And do not include any financial documents or tax records for the initial request. There's going to be a later step for that if it's needed. And this is how I would recommend formatting the body of the email that you send over to the SBA. Make it very clear. You can just copy this exactly if you want. You can pause this, write it down in your email real quick, and just fill in the numbers here. And you should be good to go as long as the subject line is correct as well. Now, there's 3 points that the SBA reached out to me and said, hey, can you let your audience know this, because there's been a lot of confusion. The first one is, if you click on that email, in the email you receive, if you click it to then send an email, sometimes they're saying a plus will go in the email that you're sending it to. Make sure that plus is not there, because otherwise it's not going to send properly. If you do see that plus, you can just copy and paste the email address or just type it into a new email and then send the email with the following information, like your loan number, your application number, and then have the subject line correct. For whatever reason, if you put the plus sign in there, or if it does it automatically, it seems to happen on Gmail, they're saying, then you want to delete that and do it correctly. Next, they're saying the email instructions are going to come from SBA-ODA at updates.sba.gov, and they're saying, let people know that that is a legitimate email address and that they've sent out 1 million of these emails, and the rest should be sent within the coming days. And then third, they said for increases, we're going to use information from the original application as much as possible so we don't need to pull credit again, which is great to hear. There are some critical changes that we need to make sure have not happened since the original loan was approved, though, like a new bankruptcy. So we need to ask borrowers some additional questions or to provide documentation depending on the circumstances. This is why we advise borrowers not to provide additional documentation in that email that you send. The SBA will advise you what they need. And it seems like in some cases, they're not going to need anything. They're just going to process that request based on the email that you send. So they're just saying, hold off. So far, you may be requested for additional information, you may not be. Now, there's some more questions that I thought needed answering regarding the EIDL loan program. So let's just go ahead and jump right into those. First one, I've read that the acquisition of fixed assets / equipment is not an eligible expense for the EIDL loan. We learned this just recently, like you can't purchase like a car. You can't purchase a piece of equipment using the EIDL loan. I think this came as a big surprise to a lot of people. So could you give some context as to where the line is between what's considered a fixed asset / equipment and what's considered supplies in this case? What is eligible? And he said this is not an all-inclusive list, but examples of fixed assets could include machinery, computers, vehicles, furniture, buildings, and land. Basically, physical assets that represent a long-term investment or asset for the company because they cannot be converted into cash or used up within a year. Inventory or supplies are not considered fixed assets. So it's important to note that you can use this on anything for your regular day-to-day business, but you can't use it to like expand your business. So just something to consider there with the EIDL loan. With the potential increase, this is my second question, with the potential increase of the EIDL loan cap to $2 million, will this also increase the total number of months to cover operational expenses longer than 24 months? So we know that the program is going to go from $500,000 up to a total potential loan size of $2 million. I want to know, hey, is this going to go from 24 months of a covered period to 36 or something larger? And he said the most likely scenario is that the loan calculation will remain at 24 months, but just the maximum loan size will increase. So if you're on that top end, if you're at $500,000 or more, if you take your operating expenses, multiply that by 24 months, if you're over $500,000, you might want to hold off a little bit. That way you can wait for it to be bumped up to $2 million and you can get a larger loan amount. Third question. What kind of documentation or proof of expenses will be needed for the EIDL loan recipients after the loan is completed? So ever since I brought up the fact that you can't buy fixed assets with this, a lot of people are like, okay, well, what proof do I need of what I'm spending this on? And you're probably going to be kind of pleasantly surprised here. Borrowers should keep an accurate financial record in accordance with the loan authorization and agreement they signed when they accepted the loan to the extent possible. The SBA may request this information in the event of an audit of the loan or grant recipient. However, I think it's going to be an unlikely scenario for most businesses due to the unprecedented level of activity for the COVID-19 EIDL program. And now this isn't a surprise. Basically, they're processing so many of these loans, it would be near impossible for them to audit each and every single one of them. So they're probably going to have some kind of system that flags suspicious activity, and those are the individuals who get audited. But it's good to have those records just in case. It's good to spend these things on the correct things just in case. They also said it's important to note that in the SBA's entire 68-year history, the agency has approved just over 2.2 million disaster loans. But in the last year, they've approved 3.8 million loans. So like they're so overwhelmed with the number of loans, it's just not likely that you're going to be audited. And that's really all you need to know there. And then the fourth question that I asked was, I've read that the EIDL loan can be used to pay off debt, but it can't be used to pay off debts completely because that would be considered refinancing. So I was curious, does this mean you could pay off 99% of a debt and still fall within the correct guidelines? And the answer is kind of. EIDL funds cannot be used to pay off long-term debt, such as paying off your car loan. The funds are meant to provide emergency working capital for normal operating expenses through the recovery period. So the funds can be used to make payments on a loan, but not totally pay it off. The exception being where there's only a few remaining payments left and your regular payments pay off that debt. So let's say you have some kind of equipment loan that's $1,000 a month and you want to use your EIDL loan to pay off that. You can still pay off that $1,000 a month, but you couldn't just take your whole loan and pay off the $30,000 piece of equipment or something like that. So if it's a regular like monthly expense, it can be used for that, which that's a really important distinction to make. And they go on to say, EIDL funds can be used to pay off interim financing or debts that were taken out to cover working capital needs until the EIDL funds were received. So if a business used a credit card to pay normal business expenses, they could pay off that debt using the EIDL funds. So if you're waiting for the EIDL loan and you put, $20,000 on a credit card just for working capital, you could pay that off with the EIDL loan because that would fit within the normal operating expenses. So that's all the questions that we have today. And I think that will really help to illuminate what exactly is going on with this crazy new application process for the expanded loan. I would just like to thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you have a profitable day.